Hey there, Minnesota Vikings fans. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I got Adam Carlson.
Heyo!
I got Kyle Smith.
What's going on?
And we got the remains of Phillip Rivers because we destroyed the San Diego Chargers.
He took a beating, that's for sure.
He did. If you piece together what's left of him and Matthew Stafford, you might have a full quarterback.
It's possible.
That was fantastic.
I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 171 of the Purple People podcast. This one is titled Moon Rivers. Because of, Phillip Rivers, and also there was some neat thing with the moon this week, as far as I heard.
Yes, it was a lunar eclipse.
Yeah, but there were more words than that. It was like super fantastic harvest red turbo
Bloods
moon or something.
Bloods and Crips moons, what up?
There we go. Yeah, it was something with lots of words to make it sound extra fancy.
It was more like super clouds here on the East Coast. That's all you can see. So
I actually thought it was a reference to the Andy Williams song, Moon River.
It could be. Very well could have been. Let's get into the quick hits. Because I like football, you like football, that's why we're all here.
We have lots of quick hits this week, too.
The Minnesota Vikings have chosen to move on from longtime mascot Ragnar, whose contract with the team expired in 2015. He reportedly was asking for a 10-year, $20,000 per game deal. Previously, Ragnar had made $1,500 per game. I wrote an article about this on the Viking Age. It turns out that he put the $20,000 as like the top of his negotiating. He was going to negotiate down, and I think that he may have gotten a little carried away with that opening number.
I think that backfired.
Yes.
A little bit for Mr.
I had
Ragnar.
one comment on there that absolutely just made me laugh. One of my readers wrote, is his friend that helped him out with it, is his name Ben Dogra? I laughed pretty hard at that.
touche.
Well played. Former Minnesota Vikings quarterback Josh Freeman will play for the FXFL. What the heck's that?
I have no idea.
That's a football league?
Yeah, it's a thing. This is FXFL Brooklyn Bolts. Josh Freeman is now their quarterback. What the hell is this?
That's not any organization I've ever heard of.
Well, it's a thing, apparently.
I'm glad he's got work. I'm glad he's playing some football because that's what football players usually do, is play football. So I'm glad he found a spot to do it.
It is called the Fall Experimental Football League, the FXFL.
Something new?
Sounds like where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah. It had an inaugural game in Omaha on October 8th, 2014, between the Omaha Mammoths and the Boston Brawlers.
Ooh.
So
I like that name.
yeah, it's actually kind of cool.
But it just reminds me too much of XFL. I don't know.
Number of teams, 3.
Nice.
I am not making that up. Number of teams, 3. How does that work?
Good chance of making the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man,
we got a lot of
so
news about former Vikings players, other than Josh Freeman. Matt Castle traded from the Bills to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Cowboys need help following the injury to Tony Romo. Castle will likely act as the backup to Brandon Weeden. Which, if you think about it, that's not a good situation, really.
I think, I could be wrong, but I think once they see him taking the reps and seeing that he can, absorb the offense, I totally think he's going to start over Brandon Weeden. I know that I know Jerry Jones. Here's the funniest thing you'll hear from last week. Jerry Jones said that there's no one who has a better throwing motion or anything like that, arm strength, than Brandon Weeden. I think his old age and dementia is getting into him just a little bit, because I don't know why he would say that. Just be like, I'm very confident that's why he's number 2. But
he's been spending too much time in the club with the hookers. That's what he's been doing.
Good old Jerry. Good for Matt. It sucked to see him leave Buffalo. I know he wanted to start, but at this point in your career, anything you can do, any place, any situation, I think he's on board. He said he wanted to be a Cowboy, which is kind of cool. So good for Matt. I hope he starts there.
Absolutely. Another former Viking traded. This time it was Jared Allen going from the Chicago Bears to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th round pick. Now, what was extra interesting about this is that the Bears had already paid his whole salary guaranteed aside from $1 million, which is what the Carolina Panthers will end up paying for his services this year.
There's more to this, too. Did you hear that Jared Allen requested the trade himself and brought a list of teams that he wanted to be traded to? And
I did not hear that he requested the trade, but I did hear he made the list of potential trade candidates.
Yes, I had heard that
based on defensive schemes.
Mm-hmm.
See, I hadn't heard that he himself requested the trade.
Yes, I had heard that it was Jared Allen himself that initiated the trade. I think I
read that somewhere online today too,
Yep.
which is funny because we all ragged on him last year when he went to Chicago. You know, you had auditions and tryouts, whatever you want to call it, for Seattle and Denver, the two Super Bowl teams the year before, and you chose Chicago. Not where you're going to win. The quarterback situation's terrible. They were going through changes in coaches. I think he adds solid depth to Carolina, and they're going to, in my opinion, as long as Atlanta doesn't give them a lot of trouble, they're going to win the NFC South again. They can make some noise, and he could go on a playoff team this year. So good for him.
Yeah, Carolina just had an injury to one of their defensive ends, so they're going to need a little bit of help there. And interestingly enough, last year, their center, number 69, Jordan Gross, ended up retiring. So 69 is available.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. More Minnesota Vikings transaction news. Jabari Price was activated following his 2-game suspension. And also, wide receiver Dante Foster was signed to the practice squad, and Blake Renaud, the fullback, was released.
Yes, Dante Foster spent all of last season on the Vikings practice squad, so he is essentially signed back to the team. So,
yes.
North Turner must see a little potential in Mr. Dante Foster.
Yeah, that or he doesn't see the need of having
another fullback on there? Yeah, I don't get that either.
Do we need another person to steal Adrian Peterson's touchdowns? No. No, we do not.
Zach Line, fantasy football machine.
Now, getting back to Ragnar, I had this as a separate quick hit, but they should have been together. Ragnar hopes to return to the team, and he hopes they can sit back down and discuss the monetary options now that he knows that he made a big mistake in that first contract.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to see him back down there on the sidelines and riding his motorcycle and dancing to the Spice Girls and whatever else he does. He's entertaining. I like him, but he made a big mistake pricing himself out. And my last quick hit is that U.S. Bank Stadium will be installing Mamava lactation suites. Now, what this is it's a spot where mommies can go and they can bring their babies or their breast pumps and get rid of the milk that is stored up, maybe swelling, maybe causing a lot of pain, or maybe the baby just needs to be fed. There's a lot of great things that can come of this. It's better than hiding people away in a bathroom stall or something like that, or creating a scene where people who aren't comfortable with something like this in a stadium have to be a part of that experience. It's something that just I feel is a fantastic trend. It's the first one in the NFL. The Vikings are taking the lead on this, and I'm actually pretty excited that they're being really proactive on this.
I think it's going to win a lot of people over as well. I don't see anything wrong with it. Like I said, to piggyback off of what you said, if you have a designated area, have this sort of the moms that are going through this together, they'll bond, they'll have a connection there. But some people, for whatever reason, in America these days get offended by everything. So at least there, they have the opportunity to be out of sight and out of mind. So I think it's a great idea. Plus, it's 2015. Let's be real. I think this is pretty cool and really a good culture move by the Vikings.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people feel too that this is just a way for the Vikings to try to push that they want to get more female and young children into the stadium to sell seats and make lifelong fans. And I'm saying, why not? If that's one of the perks that come with it. And let's be honest, I don't think anything can be worse than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Red program. That was absolutely insulting to females.
I don't even know what that is.
If you ever get a chance to look it up, it's called it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The program's called Red. By now, hopefully it's gone. My fingers are crossed.
I have to
But
look
what
this
it
up.
is each week they put out a statement for the women fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They give them tailgating recipes. They define a simple football term for the female fans, and they'll give them a little story to go with about one of the players. It's one of the most degrading things I've ever seen because I know women football fans that can blow a lot of men out of the water as far as their football knowledge.
Yeah, my friend Danny, she's a Chicago Bears fan, and I tell you what, she probably knows more than I do. Like about
The first term
yeah,
they used to define was play clock.
Wow.
that's horrible.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I'm glad to see the Vikings making steps in a proactive rather than just demeaning method of trying to get women to be more comfortable in the stadium, trying to get them to feel like they're
Why?
more part of the team and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Why does the cooking recipes have to be regulated to women?
Great question. I don't know.
I love cooking. I enjoy cooking. I want Minnesota Vikings recipes.
I just see a PR fail horribly all
Yeah.
over that idea. That was
It
a
was
terrible, terrible idea.
I'm better them than us, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how that got greenlit, to be honest. All right, so let's get into talking about football. We got the Minnesota Vikings at home versus the San Diego Chargers. The Vikings ended up winning this game 31-14. It honestly was one of those games that never felt like it was out of the Vikings' control. Which, it's odd to be able to say that after so many years of watching the Vikings struggle and being on the other side of that, where even if the Vikings had a 2-touchdown lead going into the fourth quarter, you were like, nope, this ain't staying. But when the Vikings were able to come in, and in the third quarter when they outscored San Diego 14-0, you can kind of sit back and relax and be like, yes.
They still do somehow manage to blow it on third and long situations.
Yep.
That is a problem.
Yes, it's like I am so ready for them to figure out how to stop another team on third and long. It's getting a bit ridiculous at this point, but
Yeah, but we saw some really good stuff from the Minnesota Vikings. Adrian Peterson, 20 carries, 126 yards. He was an absolute monster. But before we get into more of the stats, it's Game Ball Donkey time.
you betcha.
So you guys go ahead and start. I will clean up with what's left.
Obvious choice is obvious for a reason, guys. So my game ball for the week is going to go to Chad Greenway for that amazing, probably one of my favorite plays that I have seen in a long, long time for the Minnesota Vikings. That pick six where he ran, how many yards was it?
91.
91 yards in absolute slow motion, but he had a convoy of Minnesota Vikings escorting him down. And there's also the fantastic story, if you listen to his press conference, where he said that his grandfather was in attendance. Chad gets choked up. He said that it was his father who tipped the ball to him. Just absolute great, great emotional.
And it was the first game his grandfather
Yeah,
ever attended.
I love Chad Greenway. He's one of my favorite players, and yes, he's in decline, but he's still got the smarts and the knowledge up there, and it's so intelligent, I think, the way Mike Zimmer is using him by letting the rookies go out there earlier in the game, but letting the veterans step in, later and be able to come up with a big play like that. And it's so cool. So Chad gets my game ball.
Nice. Mr. Smith.
I wish I would have asked you, Adam. I hope I don't steal yours away. We talked before the show. I wanted to give it to Blair Walsh. I'm making an audible.
Oh, we got an audible.
We do.
Oh.
I love the fact that Blair had a bounce-back game. Shout out. Field goal made and 4 extra points. None of the sweating, none of the, holy crap, we just paid you, and you can't make anything now. No competition as of this week. I'm going to go with the obvious here. I don't think Adam chose him, but Adrian Peterson, 2 touchdowns, found the end zone, first time since 2013. Let me look at my phone real quick. Ad lib, think about something cool. 126 yards, 20 attempts. He leads the NFL right now in rushing by 25 yards from the next person up. I think it was Carlos Hyde. I could be wrong. And that's with 31 yards total a couple of weeks ago, Monday Night Football. Adrian's back.
No fumbles this game either.
No fumbles was the big key factor, too, for my audible. Thank you. You read my mind, Mr. West. He looks like he hasn't missed a step now. I just hope that for whatever reason we don't go into Denver Sunday, which we're going to talk about that game coming up, and we forget that we have the best running back in football. Feed the beast. I can't say it enough. Feed the beast.
You guys both said obvious. And I'm sitting here, I'm like...
I know who you're going to pick. I think I know.
The obvious choice for this game is Everson Griffin.
I knew it. Which he was wired for sound, by the way. If you guys go on Vikings.com, please watch it. It's so fantastic. He plays with so much fire.
1.5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 pass defended. He knocked Phillip Rivers on his butt 5 times, 6 total tackles. This guy was everywhere, getting pressure, getting hits. Everson Griffin's playing like a madman, folks.
Everson Griffin is every bit as good as what Jared Allen was.
I've been waiting for it. I've been waiting this whole show for you to say that.
Mm-hmm. And I think... Yeah, and I think he is more athletic than what Jared Allen was as well, too. He can do more things on the field than what Allen.
Do you remember how upset Minnesota's fan base was when they let Jared Allen go, and then they signed Everson Griffin to the big deal?
Do you think anyone's upset now? After Chicago sent him packing for, what'd we say, a 6th-round draft pick?
And NFL.com and ESPN were all saying, oh, they overpaid this backup.
Nope.
Who isn't proven. They must not have been watching the same Everson Griffin that we were.
And also, how smart were they to get a defensive-minded head coach like Mike Zimmer with all these great young defensive players like Everson Griffin on the team to be able to maximize them and get the most potential out of them.
You know what's crazy, too? The money and the age was a lot in why we let Jared go. But could you imagine if he would have stayed with us last year and maybe even still this year? I think many people would still be willing to say that he could match or surpass Brian Robinson. I mean, nothing against Brian Robinson. I love him. I think he's a great player. But for what Jared said last year, looking for wins and whatever, like, this is the team you want to be on. This goes back to your prime years in Minnesota when we had a legit defense where we just got after quarterbacks all the time. So I thought that was really funny.
I'm not sure Everson Griffin hasn't passed Brian Robinson right now, but Robinson is playing good football too. He may not be getting a lot of hits and sacks and stuff like that, but he's getting pressure.
He's getting pressure, and you got to account for him because as soon as you don't, he'll make plays.
He might, like you said last week, he must have listened to the podcast because he's playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Donkeys, let's hear it, Mr. West.
Let's see. My donkey, I kind of forgot who I was going to go with, but that's okay because I just remembered. I am going to go with Kyle Rudolph for my donkey, who I think at this point you can say overrated. And I hate to do that because I believe, I've said this before, he has everything on paper to be a top tight end in this league. But, my lord, catch that touchdown pass. Catch it. If you are Rob Gronkowski, you catch that. The Gronk makes that play. Rudolph, make that play, dude. Make it.
Gronk, Jimmy Graham, the elite tight ends in the NFL make that play.
Yes, you are not we gave you a boatload of money. We've seen your house. I don't know if you guys seen that video of his house online. Dude, you have arrived. Now, I'm not going to say that he works hard. We know he's a hard worker. We know he's a great guy. We know he wants to get it done. So get it done. Just do it.
What's hard is that he's not a bust. He can go out there. He can produce. He can get yards. The problem is that the Vikings valued him a bit too high.
You want him to be elite, and he is not being elite. Is he even being average, Adam?
I'd say he's above average.
Yeah.
He's slightly above average so far. What I don't like is if the health is not the issue, now you've got obvious catches that you got to make. because that was a given. That should have been Teddy's touchdown for the day. I mean, we're relying on Adrian so much, but that could have been the difference between going into segue for my donkey of the week. Why part of the reason why I could have bumped that out of why I'm going to give Teddy my donkey for the week. But that's yeah, like you say, you got to make that catch, man. Like we featured you, we trusted you, and what was he? It was a second round pick, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's up there. He's definitely getting paid like he's worth it. So
They drafted him to be the complement to Christian Ponder.
Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, has Kyle Rudolph played his best ball in Minnesota with Christian Ponder as his quarterback?
yes,
Yeah. Like
the last time we
Pro
went to the
Bowl
playoffs.
MVP.
Mm-hmm. Him and Ponder had really good rapport with one another that Teddy and Rudolph just don't quite seem to have.
But I think there's something to be said that Teddy isn't going to his tight end as a fallback the way that other people like Alex Smith and even Tyrod Taylor a bit are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it shows that he's a bit more willing to look outside to his wide receivers and go through progressions rather than look for the safe automatic throw.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably a good thing that he's not throwing them constantly towards Kyle Rudolph, because that would be a bit of the safe thing to do for him.
Yeah.
But still, between Kyle Rudolph not producing, Teddy Bridgewater averaging an insanely low number of passing yards per game, these are two parts of the Vikings offense that need to improve drastically.
Yes, big time.
My donkey, it's hard to do this because it's such a great win, but Mike Zimmer.
Jeez! What for?
This is for 1 minute and 14 seconds of taking knees. I understand it's halftime. You want to go in the lead. I get that. But when you have 1:14 to move the ball down, you can at least try to run a play. Hand Adrian the ball, see if you can get some yards. Do something.
Not even that. We did that last year with Asiata and McKinnon. Try to get somewhere in field goal range. These guys are fresh. They're not AP by any means, but get some chunks and try at least. The fans were pissed when that happened.
I was mad. On Twitter, I was mad. And I don't get mad about a lot, but okay, I don't get mad when someone tries and fails because there's effort.
Right.
When the team doesn't even try, that's when I get mad. Show some effort. Show some heart. If the coaching staff believes that the Vikings, and I believe they still had 2 timeouts at this time, right?
Yep, They sure did. And I think the frustrating part was too. Sorry to interrupt your thing, but I think we got the ball first, so we were pretty much just speeding up the process to give them the ball for the second half. That's the thing that pissed me off the most.
It was a bad situation. It was a big mistake, and I felt that taking those knees could have helped swing that momentum in the Chargers' favor, especially since the game at that point was only 10-7 at halftime. It was a dangerous, dangerous call, and I felt that leaving that much time, I guess it's not enough time for Teddy.
Teddy's got to step up his game a little bit too. Like we said, only 121 yards, no touchdowns, the 1 interception.
Can I go on my rant for that? Because he's getting my donkey for the week.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I wanna say that this is a lot to do. That now, don't get me wrong. They're playing with fire. I know it's makeshift patchwork for the line. The line's got to keep him a little better protected. But when you only throw 54% for completions and you have 1 interception, no touchdowns, the low number of yards is what gets me. I told you guys before the show, and I'll tell all the fans now, he did attempt to make some shots. Kyle Rudolph definitely kind of screwed him out of a touchdown and the team out of a touchdown, but Teddy needs to step up a little more. Adrian's great. He's going to be the workhorse, but you've got to do better. You are the most crucial position. And this is, I think statistically, this is his worst game of the year so far. So
I'd say other than the first Lions game last year, this was his worst game of his career.
Mm-hmm. And I try to defend him now. You know, I try to give those missing pieces, the drop touchdown, and the line is still not 100%. But, you know, we can't make excuses for you all the time. Now, the only thing that I see that was positive from that, like I said, to repeat myself once more, he did take some shots. That was my biggest gripe. I've talked to these guys offline, off the show about it. I want to see more deep balls because I'm a greedy fan. I want to see that he's not just an Alex Smith, which Adam and I would argue on whether Alex Smith is awesome or not. But I don't want to see these 7-8 yard passes the whole game, and that's not going to work every single time. When you face a good team with a solid linebacker core, you're not going to get far, and I think that's going to be tested come Sunday. I'm very nervous about this game Sunday.
It also comes down to you got to have receivers that are getting the job done down the field as well. Honestly, I haven't seen much from Mike Wallace that makes me go, hey, there's our number one wide receiver target, Mike Wallace. I haven't really seen too much from that. I haven't really seen too much from Charles Johnson either. And those were kind of the guys that we were talking about preseason, that those are going to be the two that are going to stretch the field for Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And it's yeah, we know, okay, there was the one pass to Wallace a couple games ago. What was that? The touchdown.
Not the pass interference.
Yeah, the pass interference, it wasn't. It's okay, that could have been there, but wasn't. But it's you're not really getting it from these guys. And I think, bold statement, Mike Wallace, gone after this season, who's going to be the veteran that they bring in? Again, we've seen them try Greg Jennings, didn't work out. Could Mike Wallace be another one-year wonder for Minnesota?
I think Teddy's really missing Greg Jennings.
You think so?
I do. I really think
1,000% agree with that.
And I do feel like a lot of Teddy's struggles are coming from the offensive coordinator, who I think Norv's calling far too many plays that leave the ball to get out of Teddy's hands so fast that plays can't develop down the field. It's like those third down situations where Teddy's getting blitzed. He knows he's got to drop it off, and he knows it's got to be fast. But the problem is that it's right in the middle of the field, and it has no chance of getting past the third down marker.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first down marker. So it's a rough situation. It's one that just we need to see more from everything on this team. More smart play calling, better play from Teddy, wide receivers getting open, tight ends and wide receivers catching footballs. The problem we don't have is with the running back situation right now.
Well,
the ground game is working.
I mean, historically, when people talk training camps and preseasons and beginning of the season talk, is that defenses tend to get going ahead of offenses. And we're seeing, in my opinion, the beginning formation of a really good defense for Minnesota. So my hope is that the offense is going to slowly start to catch up here in the next couple games, where you're seeing Adrian progress, and he's starting to look more like the Adrian that we're used to seeing. And now maybe the other pieces, maybe we'll see more from your Mike Wallace and your Kyle Rudolph and whatnot, Charles Johnson, will get going, and they'll get rolling, and they'll get hot, and they'll catch up and start to look really good as well, too.
Hope so. I hope you're right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get into talking about the game stats. We talked about Teddy enough, so we don't need to cover that. We talked about Adrian. That's good stuff there. Otherwise, we had pretty pedestrian performances from the running backs. Cordero Patterson had that 1 yard jet sweep that netted 9 yards.
Woo, Cordero!
C-Pat getting involved.
Yeah, game planning for Pat.
Zach Line, 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. He's 2 for 2 on the year.
Fantasy
2
points.
carries, 2 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Even Adrian said in the interview, he's like, I wanted a third touchdown.
Mike Wallace was the star of the wide receivers. 3 catches on 4 targets for 49 yards. He was averaging 16.3 yards per catch. Pretty sweet stuff there. Mm-hmm. Jarius Wright, 3 catches, 4 targets, 28 yards. Adam Thielen, catching half of his targets, 2 catches, 16 yards. Kind of cool to see him getting involved. That was after an injury to Charles Johnson. Still not sure what's going on with him. I'm sure we'll have more on the podcast page about that later this week. Kyle Rudolph, targeted 5 times, only hauled in 2 of them for 14 yards.
Frustrating.
That's the situation there. Defensively, Eric Kendricks led the team in tackles, 9. All 9 tackles were solo tackles. Did it all by himself.
Because he is a stud.
He is. Harrison Smith second with 8, 5 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass defended. Good stuff there.
He's also a stud.
Anthony Barr had a good game too. He also had 6 tackles and brought down all of them by himself. He had 1 sack on the day and had 2 nice hits on Phillip Rivers.
1 forced fumble. Don't forget about that.
Is that the one that Captain Munderland scooped up?
Yep.
It is.
Yep. He is credited with the forced fumble.
Trey Waynes saw some action. He was actually team's 5th best tackler. 5 tackles, 4 solo. So the people that said he's too soft and can't tackle, I don't know about that. He had 1 pass defended that a lot of people thought could have been an interception, but when you're a rookie and the ball's coming your way, I can just imagine how excited you are.
Mm-hmm. Which he filled in for Xavier Rhodes, who was shaken up and had to leave for the game. So it was, as Mike Zimmer said at halftime to him, to Trey Waynes, next man up, like it's your number, it's your time, so go out there. And I felt that Waynes responded really well to that, because Phillip Rivers, as soon as San Diego got the ball, like they
went to pick on him.
They went to pick on him, and why wouldn't you do that? That was a smart thing to do, and I think he responded incredibly well.
Now you're talking about Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes he had a concussion after colliding with Andrew Sendejo on a pass to Keenan Allen. It was one of those collisions that was really scary because you didn't know whether it was neck or shoulder or head, and he laid there motionless for a long time, and it was scary. It was really scary, but the good news is that he's already passed the first stages of the concussion test, and it sounds as though, I'm not going to say he will be because I don't want to jump the gun here, but it sounds as though he could be good to go for the game against Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed. Sharif Floyd, man in the middle, he also got 2 hits on Phillip Rivers. I love the fact that the Vikings were able to get 12 solid hits on Phillip Rivers in that game.
Clean hits, too. Zimmer talked about that. Yep. It's fantastic.
And, yeah, that's what I absolutely love, is that they are going after the quarterback. They are getting there. They're rattling him. The problem is that both Phillip Rivers and Matt Stafford both are not known for having a huge football IQ. And next week, the Vikings are taking on probably one of the most intelligent football players ever to take of the field in Peyton Manning. So it'll be interesting to see how things work out there. We mentioned the 1 interception that happened in this game, Mr. Chad Greenway, but we got to mention it again because it was nice.
It was really good.
It was. Cordero Patterson had that nice 32-yard kick return. That was nice to see.
Getting involved.
Marcus Sherrills had a kind of pedestrian day on punt returns. But what can you expect? Blair Walsh, flawless. He even made the kick that would have been 3 points, but San Diego jumped off sides and gave the Vikings a first down. So he even made the kick he didn't have to.
Good turnaround for him this week.
And hey, how about Jeff
Locke averaging over 40 yards a punt?
Yeah, quietly, he's putting together pretty good couple games here.
2 into the 20. Jeff Locke was a guy I was never really that concerned about. But I know a lot of folks just really don't like it. I know that the appeal of the left-footed punter is something that is said a lot in the NFL and during games. And to be honest, I think that there are enough left-footed punters in the league now to where that's not a big of a deal as it used to be. And I think that a lot of teams bring in players to punt with their left foot, to put that awkward spin on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's as big of a deal as people think, but the fact that Locke is getting the ball, moving it down the field, he had that nice 60-yard punt. That one was a nice boomer.
Yes.
So it's good to see the special teams alive and kicking. The Chargers, Phillip Rivers, who came into this game leading the NFL in completion percentage, he struggled.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting beaten around. His offensive line was just absolutely crumbling around him.
Yeah, you thought our offensive line was in ruins. Boy, they had to mix and match a lot of pieces.
A lot of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chargers tried to get a run game going. They carried the ball 28 times, but they only managed to get 90 yards, averaging 3.2 yards a carry. Whatever Zimmer did after week 1 to focus on stopping the run and getting to the quarterback, it's made one heck of a difference on that defense. One heck of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no stopping Keenan Allen. 12 catches, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was targeted 18 times in this game. There's no doubt who Phillip Rivers wants to throw the ball to, who his go-to guy was, and the Vikings knew it. The fact that he was only able to haul in 2/3 of the passes that came his way, pretty awesome. The fact that it resulted in 2 touchdowns and 133 yards, not as great. But that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Overall, I thought this was a really nice performance from the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said earlier, it was one of those games that never felt like it was out of control. By the end of the game, Phillip Rivers took a seat on the bench. His backup, Kellen Clemens, came in, played some football. Kellen Clemens, in garbage time, connected on 5 of his 6 passes. Seemed to have a pretty good grasp of what was going on. Although it was garbage time, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Still good to see a game like this for the Vikings. I enjoy watching games like this because you don't get to see a commanding Vikings game you don't get to see it often enough.
I like it because it is a return to form to a dominant Minnesota Vikings defense. And I am buying what Mike Zimmer is selling with what they are doing with this group of guys. I believe this front four for the Minnesota Vikings is as talented of a group as we have ever had. I think that if they can continue to play at a high level, good things will happen for this team because there is a lot of talent out there on this defense, and Mike Zimmer is the kind of guy, the kind of coach who can also take not only your talented players like Harrison Smith and your veterans like Terrence Newman, but he can also make the most out of guys like Gerald Hodges and Scott Crichton and some of the other, maybe they're not your top tier guys, but he can still get them working and be assignment sound, and I just love this defense that they are building here in Minnesota.
Absolutely. Next week, the Vikings travel to Colorado to take on the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
This game is going to be the early measuring stick. The Broncos look to be one of those teams that they're the guys to beat right now, in my opinion. Their defense is absolutely lighting it up. They're rushing the passer. They're stopping everybody. They got 2 of the best cornerbacks in the NFL right now. They've got Peyton Manning on offense. The major weakness right now for Denver is that they don't have a run game. So if Minnesota can continue to stuff the run, and if they can get to Peyton Manning, get some hands on him, the problem is that down the field, they won't have the luxury of being a little soft in coverage like they were against Matt Stafford or Phillip Rivers. Peyton Manning is Peyton Manning. I know people say he's got a noodle arm. I know he's getting old. And you hear all these things. Never mind all that. He's Peyton Manning. He can put the ball where it needs to go.
If he gets it out fast enough, I totally agree with you. I think you think Detroit was hard. You think San Diego was a good game. We have to play lights out on defense better than these last 2 games. We have to knock Peyton Manning around and make him want to hand the ball off to a not good running situation that they have. This game terrifies me because I know it's going to be the biggest challenge we faced so far. I think our linebackers are going to get tested because he loves to dink and dunk. His arm is not what it used to be. He throws a lot of ducks, but you know what his ducks do? They get completed, and that scares me.
Yeah, when you've
But
got Demaryius Thomas, who targeted 13 times last week, and Demaryius Thomas is going to need a guy like Xavier Rhodes on him, which is why Xavier is so important to the team this week. I like Terrence Newman, I do. And the problem is that when you try to match up another guy against him, you don't want a rookie going up against Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders. You don't want that. You don't want an undersized guy like Captain Munnerlyn going up against Demaryius Thomas. These two guys are matchup problems. So that is what is scary on offense. Defensively, there is absolutely nothing not to be scared of. These guys are incredible. Brandon Marshall, 12 total tackles last week, got a quarterback hit. DeMarcus Ware, just an absolute monster. They got an absolute deal when they got him. Aqib Talib, one of the best in the league right now. Chris Harris Jr. These guys are just... And I didn't even mention Von Miller yet.
and DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller scare the lights out of me for Teddy this week. Oh my God, those
It's going
two
to be
guys.
a huge challenge for TJ Clemmings.
Oh,
Huge challenge. And we don't know yet the situation of what's going on as far as the center position. John Sullivan, as far as I know, last week he was a game time decision. So I don't know what his status is going to be for this week, if it's still going to be sort of a game time decision or what's going on. Hopefully they'll have him available.
I was going to say it'd be huge if we could get Sully back for this game, to have him out there for center, because I believe that he helps Teddy just immensely having him on the field. That's no knock to, any of the other guys out there on the line, but like Sully is the key to it. Like him and Teddy, that will help out quite a bit. And you guys are right. Like the key for the Vikings is actually pretty straightforward for this game. You protect your quarterback. You protect Teddy, you give him time. And the defensive line gets to Peyton Manning. It's like you flip it right around there. And then you say your defensive line has to get to Peyton Manning. They have to throw him off rhythm and stop the run. If they can do both those things, I believe the Vikings can win.
The key to this game, like I told you guys before the show, is in the middle of that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need those two guards and that center to generate enough of a push to be able to get Adrian Peterson to go up the gut. That's going to force the Broncos to stay honest, stay back, because they don't want Adrian Peterson getting out into open yardage. If those three guys can win the battle up front, the Minnesota Vikings have a solid chance on offense, and I believe that it'll take a healthy Xavier Rhodes on defense to be able to contend with this high-powered offense. But I'm not going to say the Vikings don't have a chance. I'm going to say it's going to be their hardest game so far. I do think that right now the Broncos do have the advantage. But I'm going to say the Broncos have about a 60% chance of winning this game. So I hope the Vikings can take advantage of that 40%.
Here's the thing, though. You listen to the excitement of Everson Griffin just talking to the media. He believes 100% that the Vikings are going to go in and they are going to win this football game. And so because of that, we have a chance. Like, we have more than a chance of going in because this team, they're young and they're hungry and they buy into what their coaching staff is selling. And that makes them dangerous.
See, here's my problem with that, though. The Vikings are not the best on the road. The Vikings were able to dominate at home against the Lions and the Chargers. They put forth a dismal performance against the 49ers to open the season. And now they're going back on the road against Denver, and I don't know. I don't know.
This is going to segue me to my bold statement. I've been ragging on Teddy all week. I'm going to continue that train. He's going to have to play his best game thus far as a Viking for us to win Sunday. And like you just said, at home, I think we were, 7 of 8 last year or 6 of 8? Yeah. We're great at home. On the road is a completely different story. I think the first game of the year was a fluke. I think we were way too hyped up. And as luck would have it and history would tell us, we are not good in prime time. But Teddy's going to have to play lights freaking out. Very smart. We need the good decision maker. And as much as I ragged on him earlier about dink and dunk, if you got to dink and dunk your way to a 3-point victory, I don't care. This game is crucial. This is the first quarter of the season. We have a bye week the week after. Can you imagine the momentum we would have if we tackle the Broncos in Denver going in? Hello, Pro Football. Hello, ESPN, NFL,
Yep.
CBS. We would be in the top, I think, 8 of the 32 teams. We're floating around 12 or 13 right now. We would absolutely send a statement to the league and be like, hey, I know you guys left us out after the first week and you thought we were terrible, but this is the playoff dark horse that we told you we were going to be. I hope we win Sunday, as always. Teddy, I'm gonna need you to channel your inner Brett Favre. That's what you want to be, and not the interception throwing Brett Favre. I
No.
need you to play like against Oakland after his dad died. That's what I need.
You
Boom.
are right, Kyle Smith, because when the Vikings are on the, when you're at home, you can afford to play a little bit of Vikings football, and by that I mean dominant defense, hand the ball off to Adrian, do what you got to do to run it, win the game. You can get away with that at home. But when you're on the road, I agree. You have to be, of course you want to feed the beast, and you're going to get Adrian going because that's where your offense starts. But Teddy has to be explosive and make those down the field plays to shift momentum so that you can continue to feed Adrian and then let it rest on your defense and get into that mode of playing Vikings ball. But Teddy has to get it done as well, too.
Absolutely.
I'm fired up right now, and it's only Tuesday.
Yeah, this game is incredible.
Let's go. Let's make a statement for this. I believe in this
it's
team.
Not the noon game. It's later.
I'm actually not complaining because I had to work Saturday, Sunday this past week. I worked Sunday and Monday coming up, and I was pissed because if you watch the Charger game, it was 10-7 halftime, and I sat through the whole thing and then I had to clean up at work, which takes like 30 minutes to an hour. And then I drive home, and you guys are messaging me like, oh, my God, did you see that? And I was like, no. So I can get home well before this game starts and actually get to watch it and dissect it and chew my fingernails off because I know that's what's going to happen.
Kickoff is what time, Adam? 3:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
4:25 Eastern Standard.
Mm-hmm. Gonna make us wait.
That's okay. I don't mind. Social media question of the week. Now, we talked a lot about Ragnar, and why not talk a little bit about Victor, too? Who do you think of as the Vikings mascot, Ragnar or Victor? I asked you guys this, and a lot of you guys were really cheap on your answer and said both. And I understand your reasoning. You like Ragnar for the adult version. You like the kiddie version of Victor, and I get that. But there are some people that just absolutely support Ragnar. Corbin Johnson, Devanio Warner. Keith Bell says they should both have a place in Vikings tradition, and I think they always will. But hopefully they won't be around as long as the purple dinosaur. That purple damn dinosaur.
What would we say his name was?
Vicosaurus
Rex or something like that?
Vicodontus Rex.
Yeah.
That's absolutely horrible.
He was retired. You know what? We say that, but then I seen someone else post about him in one of the Vikings groups. There are people who were nostalgic for him.
Vicodontus Rex.
Yeah. There are people who are like, I remember him from when I was a kid. He was awesome. So, hey, that proves the point that we were talking about off the show, Adam, is that you were right.
Yep.
There are people who are fans of any player or just anything.
Yeah, we had Anthony, Marcus, Troy, Forrest, Blake, Bob, Sean, a lot of people saying Ragnar, just everybody loving Ragnar.
Did anyone mention Sid?
No.
No one mentioned Sid, because you know what? When I first started watching the Vikings back in '98, when I would always see, the big guy with the purple face and the championship belt, honestly, I viewed him as the mascot of the team.
Sid Davey is easily recognizable as being one of the figures for the Minnesota Vikings, even though, as far as I know, he has no connection to the team officially.
I love Sid. You talk about, memorable fans. Sid is, in my opinion, the face of the Minnesota Vikings, fans.
I had a chance to meet him before the game against the Washington Redskins a couple years ago, and I had a fantastic time meeting him. He was a great guy.
Yeah. Everyone loves Sid.
Yeah. Next week, I'm going to be asking you guys a tough one. Have you been disappointed in the early play of Teddy Bridgewater this season? I know I don't want you guys to go off on Teddy. I just want to know if you feel like it's going to take him a while to get into the swing of things, if you expected him to come out and play at a much higher level, or where you see him right now compared to where you thought he would be. So let us know over on the Facebook page, and I will read some of the answers next week.
That's a bit of a tougher question than a mascot question, so I look forward to seeing what everyone comes up with for that answer.
Well, hopefully after a very awesome performance Sunday, it'll be, no, I'm not disappointed at all.
I thought about asking, what other things do you think those lactation suites will be used for?
Drug deals.
Because you know that there's going to be some shady stuff going down in there.
There'll be some drug deals going on in there.
Because privacy is one thing, and when you give people a place where they can go where they know that they're not going to be watched, it's scary. The scary thought. But that's all I have.
By the way, we're not saying that from Vikings fans. We're talking about the visiting team, right?
No, I'm talking about everybody.
I'm talking about the visiting team.
There's some really awful Vikings fans out there too. Sorry, Vikings Nation. But some of you guys are not great. But most of you guys are cool in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just wanted to update everyone on the league, the Yahoo Survival League. This week we had 11 teams that were eliminated. 11. 6 teams are left with 2 strikes. There are a dozen teams with 1 strike. And 4 teams are still flawless. The 22 teams that are left are still in contention to win the Minnesota Vikings jersey of their choice. So good luck to everyone that's still in the competition, and I'll keep updating you guys every week.
And I hope they pick, Adam, a really obscure player that's difficult for you to find a jersey of.
Hey, if it happens, and that's all right.
I wonder who would be the hardest player to find a jersey for.
Active player?
Yeah. Well, what's the long snapper? Kevin McDermott. Maybe it'll be a Kevin McDermott jersey.
You never know.
Long snappers have feelings too. All right.
Do they?
The thing is, though, is Kevin McDermott might be a safe jersey to have because he's been in the NFL 3 years, and long snappers tend to, once they latch on to a team, they stay for a long time. So yeah. Could be a safe one.
We haven't had to talk about him at all, which is a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that Jeff Locke is having some success again kind of shows that maybe that was a good switch up. Mm-hmm. But that's all I have for this week. Do you guys have anything else?
Oh, I don't have anything. Nope.
All right. Make sure to check the Facebook posts, though, because we have been putting up the posts about Mr. Kyle West's artwork on sale, which is always a lot of fun.
Yes. Check my stuff out.
Yeah.
You should do it. It's KyleWestPhotography.com. Check the store out. Lots of stuff. I mean, lots of stuff. I have 300 photos up the last time I checked. And guess what, guys? I still have more, and I am planning on doing more photo shoots. You also check out. I almost fell out of my chair. You can check.
Do you have any photos of babes on cars?
Not yet, but maybe I can work something out in the future. I don't know.
Because guys love babes on cars.
I see what I can do.
There you go. In the meantime, head over and check us out on Facebook, Twitter @PurplePeoplePod. Check out my work on the Viking Age, and with The Walking Dead starting back up, I'd love to have you checking out my work on UndeadWalking.com. But I would like to thank everyone for listening and remind everyone to stay classy, Minnesota.